Hey, welcome everybody, and we'll get started. So, wow, welcome to Medium Day. We're a little bit new at this too. My name's Jamie Millard, and I'm piping in from Canada here. And a big shout out to Medium for putting this on, and we'll call it a festival of connection. And it's nice to kind of be leading off the way. And shout out to Christine, who said she just wanted some inspiration to start the day. So let's kind of provide that. And thanks for the hop in platform. If I do disappear, I'll be right back, and it'll be just a tech glitch. And a shout out to my collaborator and co-host, who will introduce herself in a sec. And a big thank you to Indira Ambrose and the teams at Arto Magazine and Maturity Inc., who give me a platform and a publication every day to grow my writing and to grow with other writers, and just a wonderful support team. And it's difficult sometimes as us for writers, for wordsmiths, for us poets, to hear ourselves above that noise. So I'm going to ask you, what if we could upregulate more positive in our life? Okay, what if we could downregulate the negative in our life? And what if we had more transcendence? What if we had more of that connection and oneness? Okay, if you say yes to that, put it in the chat. Okay, hippies with paintbrushes, wordsmiths, creators, right? Authors, writers. If you want more positive in your life, less negative, and more transcendence, say yes into the chat. And for me, it's hard to follow the chat, but that's called poetry. And I would like to say here that poetry is the alchemy of presence. Poetry kind of is that miracle art that, whether we realize it or not, really meets us throughout the day. And that's what this talk is about. This talk is about just how we meet that poetry in all the different rituals throughout the day. William Blake lovingly said, in the universe, there is the unknown and the known, and in between them, there are doors. And poetry is one of those doors. It's a portal to presence. And it's something that just allows us to step into that place of being, as opposed to that, that ego of doing. And it brings us into the present moment. So as inspiration, I want to start off the day here with a blessing. On the wings of words, may we find fire in the cold. May the words find us as bread that feeds us in our hunger and heals us in our time of need. May the consciousness of words invite us into a deeper conversation with the very voice that aches in our bones. On the wings of words, may we live into the questions that bring us alive. May poetry arrive as both a shelter and a storm. May it teach us powerful lessons, and may it wash us clean. On the wings of words, may we meet the authenticity of our soul. May we greet the stranger in the mirror and fall in love with ourselves all over again. On the wings of words, may we open the door and cross the threshold to the inside, home. And I think poetry expresses often what mere conversation can't do. And, to quote Mary Oliver, poetry, it's beyond words. It's bread for the hungry. It's ropes for the lost. And words can free us. Words can heal us. Words can help us learn to forgive, and words can even save our life. And, and words can be that shining light of love that just shines through and transforms us and brings us into those spaces where transformation can take place. And that's the beauty of using poetry as a blessing. And, poetry is the language of mystery, myth, right? Metaphor, magic, it's mercy. And it kind of joins in with the mirror and the messenger and the minstrel of our soul. And a daily practice of reading, writing, and speaking poetry out loud, I'll say, is an act of resilience. It's an act of resilience that creates the spaces, those doors Blake talks about, where transformation is possible. And my own journey to poetry, very briefly, is I was a young poet. I had a situation where I ended up maybe having an aneurysm, and they weren't sure back in the 70s. Technology wasn't there. And turned out to be some pretty strange migraine headaches. And, a few spinal taps later, I was allowed to get up, and I wandered down the hall and towards this light. And at the end of the hall, I experienced this young child with scars on his head, and words just found me. And I went back, and I was 12 years old, and I just wrote, and these words came through me. And, where I grew up to be a poet in the 70s and 80s wasn't cool. So it slowly kind of disappeared, and the world of science swallowed me up, and I kind of climbed that first mountain. But when I got to the top, I was on a crazy journey in Scotland and Ireland. And again, the words started to find me, and I just wrote. And as they disappeared, again, COVID came, and I could, instead of it being a negative experience for me, it allowed me to hear my own voice, and poetry came back quite loudly, and met me as just a whole bunch of opportunities to create rituals throughout the day, to tap into that state of awareness and being. So I want to read something called Morning Ritual. I awoke today to the quiet darkness, whispering my name. A warm ache greeting me like a child on Christmas morning, calling me to rise up, telling me a new day is arriving, reminding me that love is a choice that I create every single day. I tenderly sip a fresh cup of coffee that dances on my lips, romances my nostrils. I greet this new day as a cherished gift, thankful in gratitude. I am so alive. I sit and bless her, surrendering to the dawn. And as love swallows me whole, grace announces the harvest of her presence. The flower of my life unfolds all around me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie, for this wonderful poem. And it was this exact poem that connected Jamie and me. I found this poem on Instagram, and it spoke to me so deeply. And I actually immediately used it for my morning routine, because it was such a good reminder that we are the love we are searching for, that we all already are love, and that we can choose to be love every day. So a bit about me. I'm Nicole. I'm an intuitive guide, holistic teacher, a spiritual practitioner, and also a creator, a writer. And I'm in love with love. So I really love to talk about love, and because I think it is a very, very interesting word and very important word. And thank you, Jamie, for having me here today as a co-hosting session. And so this poem was really the starting point for me to go back again to poetry. I did a lot of poetry when I was a teenager, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then I went back to it through this poem. I came back to poetry again. And then Jamie and I got into talking. And then at some point, we realized that poetry can do much more than just be used for entertainment or for enjoyment, just for reading and speaking it out loud. And it actually is a very, very good method to bring us into the present moment. And in spiritual practices, we try to focus, right? Mostly, that's most of, well, that's the intent of most of the spiritual practices. So we came up with the poetry approach, which says that we can entwine poetry with different spiritual practices like blessing, prayer, intuitive writing, journaling, meditation, self-reflection, ritual, nature, and gratitude. And these these methods, these spiritual practices, can be wonderfully entwined with poetry. And I find it very interesting when I read Jamie's poem. I always said morning prayer, although it's called morning ritual, because for me it was more like a prayer. So so prayer is one spiritual practice that we can entwine poetry with. And because with crafting the words, a prayer as a poem has even more intention and is more connected to that inner world and to that bigger world. So we can also use poetry for intuitive writing, which helps us that we practice this connection to source and to spirit, and that we then download the information from spirit as in a poem. And we can also do that with journaling to spruce up our journal experience, and with all the other things I just stated.
Yeah, poetry. I love this quote from Charles Bukowski. And if you read Bukowski, it's in your face, and it's real, and it's wonderful. Poetry is what happens. Poetry is what happens when nothing else can. And I think that's the gift of trying to interconnect and connect all these kind of spaces that poetry can enter our lives. Poetry is what happens when nothing else can. And it arrives to find us in a time of hunger, in a time of need. It's a contemplative practice. Poetry is akin to meditation. And I'll even go and say, when you read the science, poetry complements a very kind of, yogic awareness. And all of those things are portals to presence. So we talked about blessings, to greet the day in the mercy of a blessing. John O'Donoghue, the great Irish priest and poet since past, talked about using poetry as a blessing to almost send a circle of love and light out around somebody. Hey, Joachim. And prayer, what I talked about as that morning ritual, is a prayer. So prayer and blessing are this act of mercy that, again, it's self-empathy. It helps us meet ourselves. Emotional regulation, reflection, intuitive writing, journaling. Sometimes to just meet ourselves in those spaces between the words and beyond the words is what poetry allows us to do, with just one word allowing another word. And it's different from prose, because prose tends to swing on the pendulum from past to future. And sometimes it's really hard to find that center. And poetry allows us to step through that portal into this space of presence, a threshold, right? It means different things to different people. And gratitude. So we talk about the neuroscience of resilience, and it's really wonderful, because when you look at all the practices in resilience, it comes to three things. It's upregulating the positive, it's downregulating or controlling or managing what we'll call the negative, just the aspects of life that are difficult, right? As well as this transcendence piece. And there's this beautiful transcendence piece, which just means something bigger than ourself. we're part of this bigger oneness, this life force, spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? God shows up in us as us. The universe shows up in us as us. And poetry allows us to step into all three of these places when you look at this from a neuroscience perspective in the brain. And it's just a wonderful practice to add to a spiritual practice, which just means going from that place of doing to that place of being. And I think one of the best places to do it is meditation, because meditation is already that act of mindfulness that we call, it's just trying to control the default mode network in our brain, which is just a fancy word for saying our ego. And it's just trying to manage it. And I'll flip it back to Nicole Sive to share us, talk us through how poetry adds to meditation.
Yes, thank you. Sive is the name I'm writing on. Some of you have might have found that on Medium. So that's how it's pronounced, actually, Sive. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. And I am very passionate about implementing poetry into my guided meditations, because it is very beneficial to, well, actually, first of all, writing the meditation as a poem is a meditation in itself. And often I sit outside in nature and write it, and then it's a double meditation. So, and then when I read it to my audience, to the people who are joining me in the sessions, then it's another meditation. And poetry has the ability to create this visualization in a meditation more easily. So oftentimes we are sitting or trying to meditate to a guided meditation, and we are having a hard time to create this image, to create this feeling of relaxation, and our mind swirls and our mind goes on, and this little chatter in our mind goes on. And meditation can, and poetry can actually help with the images. And so that you can see for yourself, I invite you to a little meditation here right now. So get ready, ground yourself, breathe in and breathe out, and feel your feet on the ground, rooted, and feel how you're present. And if you want, you can put a hand on your heart to really feel where you are right now. Breathe in, breathe out. Feel your feet grounded to the earth. Feel the roots growing deep. Feel their strength, the endless ground of space. Surrender to the rhythm of nature, dancing in her own pace. Bathe in the grace of divine power. Float in the vastness of a stardust shower. Your body floating in beautiful white light. Your soul glowing, shining bright as your muscles relax, letting go of the tight grip of fear that paints a picture of illusion. Swipe your hand across the canvas. Clear the sheet. It's time to write your own lyrics. Feel the beat of your heart guiding you towards your destiny. Feel your soul running free. Plant the seed and then let it go. Watch it grow. Savor every minute of expansion. Witness the tension between the possibility and the moment when it becomes reality. Breathe in, breathe out, and kiss your desires goodbye. Let them fly across this clear blue sky, for the universe will carry them back for you to witness through your very own eyes. Breathe in, breathe out, and come back to the present moment. Yeah, just a quick dip into how that might sound and feel like a meditation. Let me know how that was for you in the chat if you want. And I apologize, the chat seems to be a bit slow. So we always have to update it to see the new responses. So thank you for coming from so many countries. Wow.
Yeah, beautiful. And we want to just try to have a conversation now. And that's the beauty of this festival of connection. And Heidi asked a great question. How important do you find structure in writing poetry compared to emotion and authenticity? I'm wondering if too much focus on structure somehow distorts our true voice. And I think that taps into this, especially with free verse poetry. It lets us, there are no rules. And poetry is such a broad word, right? I really think it's a portal to presence. And I think we can rhyme. We don't have to rhyme. I think it's living out on the edges. And I think poetry taps into that I'd like to say, into the now of here. It's that presence where when I write prose, I can only speak to myself. I get stuck on that pendulum of past and future. What am I relating what I just am writing to? What do I have to plan so that it gets somewhere? And I find I get lost. But poetry allows me to just be in that miracle of presence, which to me allows me to hear the authentic voice of my soul a lot louder. So any other questions? We're trying to make this platform work the best we can.
Yes, I want to just quickly add, I think so too, that I think when we cling to that structure, it makes us too narrow in our thinking. So that's why I think when we use poetry kind of as intuitive writing, like we connect to a bigger source first, and then it just all spills out. These are usually the poems that really flow best and touch one in the heart, right?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam. Yeah, and that's it. I think poetry just allows us to tap into that being as opposed to doing. And when I get writing prose, sometimes I'm a little outcome focused. So I kind of I'm more of a doer and less of a beer, and I lose that deeper ability to hear that voice. So look for us. I mean, this is a beautiful start for us on just our own journey too, and a poetic journey. And what we've provided for everybody is as a guide. We didn't know how much this would be conversation versus presentation. We really just wanted to put ourselves out there. We got a great slot to start the day and just get people pumped about being part of such an amazing community. And when you write poetry and when you're on Medium, you might be alone, but you're never lonely. And you can meet people in these spaces between your words and beyond your words that just kind of, again, just make us feel part of something so much more than ourselves. So we've provided a little bit of a summary guide, a little bit of a commentary, something that just goes a little bit deeper than what we provided. If you're interested, we'll put up here where you can find that, and then where you can find us for other kind of. We tried to get a community going with some shares on just being part of a poetry group, looking at all this, the poetry way. How you use the poetry as just these doors for to tap into presence every day, and just some other offerings where we meet together as a meditative group, and where we just meet together as a group just to connect. And Nicole will put that up in the chat. And if for some reason it doesn't show, we will post it on our Medium sites as well. So you can find your way back to Jamie Millard, and we will post it there if it doesn't show for some reason. Donald, there it is.
Yeah,
so there's your link.
Works.
There's your link. Donald, I find the best structure in a poem is the one that doesn't seem evident, but makes the poem seem totally natural. And I agree. We don't even know sometimes where it comes from. To quote Pablo Neruda, right? poetry just arrived. I don't know where it came from. Did it come from winter? You know, did it come from a river? It just arrives sometimes. And thank you, Molly, for showing up here. And our brains are time machines, but we get stuck in Chronos, right? The ancient Greeks talked about Chronos being ruled by the clock as opposed to the Kairos of being into the now of here. As soon as we say now, I think we're 10 milliseconds late. So I like to say here. To me, it lets me tap into presence a bit more. And Heidi, thank you. And thank you for being courageous to ask a question. And Robin, writing and reading into the presence. And that's where we live, right? That's the here is where we truly can be. And to me, poetry is just a beautiful portal to that. And I found I probably lost 45 years of my life trying to catch that pendulum swinging from the shame of the past to the fear of the future. And it's pretty tough to slow it down and be present. So thank you, everyone, for chiming in, and please look for us.
Yeah. And Delta, we are from, well, Jamie's from Canada. I'm from Germany right now, but soon from Ireland. And we are publishing on Medium, and I'm publishing on Substack too, and on the website, which you can find in the link that we just, provided for you there. I have a few more comments here. Another question. Yes, the spiritual aspect. I find that really interesting and important for me, because especially because it helps us. So poetry helps me to tap into that spiritual aspect, to tap into that source, to connect to that oneness. So the words somehow seem to, and I see a lot of writers, and sometimes even putting the same topics out at the same time, which shows me that there's really this connection. And I think what all creators do is they tap into this source aspect, and they get their inspiration somehow from this field, and some call it flow, right, or the zone. And I think that's just this oneness that we are connecting to. Yeah.
So thank everybody. I know there's other sessions to get onto, and I thank Medium, Tony Stubblemind, and everybody. And thank you. Totally inspirational. What a beautiful way to start a wonderful festival of connection, and to be able to do it with a little bit of poetry is a blessing. So thank you all for connecting with us, for giving us your presence, and just making the rapture of being alive such a beautiful journey, a soul journey, this spiritual journey of whatever we call it, going from doing to being. And I'll meet everybody in the spaces. Both of us will meet everybody in the spaces between the words, and I'll give the last word to my wonderful collaborator here.
Thank you. Yeah, and I apologize if we couldn't answer everything in the chat. Like, this is like so much at once. So I saw every one of you, and I hope to see you all again, maybe on Wednesday already. You get all the information if you sign up there, and then have a wonderful, wonderful day, and thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well.
Thank you.
Bless you all.
Stay well.